The durable diva, star of TV, pop music, and movies for well over 30 years, Cher. I'm Jane Pauley, and this is Time and Again.
The following program is brought to you in living color. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening to you.
This is Lowell Thomas in New York. The Beatles emerged out of the
Let's go, my fellow Americans.
I'm Chet Huntley, your host on...
We had 73 television cameras on Mayday Girl.
President Nixon is actively...
One small step for man.
Hello and welcome to Time and Again. Return with me for a moment to 1965, a great year for pop music, maybe the greatest. Topping the charts then, the Beatles with Yesterday, Help, Ticket to Ride, the Beach Boys with Help Me Rhonda, the Rolling Stones with Satisfaction, the Temptations with My Girl, Elvis Presley with Crying in the Chapel, the Supremes with Stop in the Name of Love, the Byrds with Mr. Tambourine Man, Bob Dylan with Like a Rolling Stone. And number one for 3 weeks in the summer of '65.
They say we're young and we don't know, won't find out till we grow.
I Got You, Babe, the hit that launched Sonny and Cher. Sonny's no longer with us, of course, but Cher certainly is. And she's our subject on this episode of Time and Again. She grew up wanting to be famous, and she got her wish. Still a teenager when she became a star, she's now in her 50s. One of the most durable pop stars of our time. Her personal and professional ups and downs faithfully chronicled over the years for a public that just can't seem to get enough. Cher made it big as a singer, but her first love was acting, and she's still at it. Her latest film, Franco Zeffirelli's Tea with Mussolini.
Well, he said he just found the first version of Picasso's Demoiselle d'Avignon.
And you bought it?
Well, of course I...
Connie Rayner of the Morning Post in London. Do you mind if I take notes?
No.
Yes, sweet.
No, I want everyone to hear about this. Anyway, when he called...
Franco Zeffirelli had this idea that no one could play this character but me, which is, you know, it's always great to hear that.
You play...
I play a lady named Elsa Morgenthau. Well, she changes her name a lot, actually. She was an old Ziegfeld Folly star. She marries old men that are about to die, who have lots of money, and then she takes their money and goes to Italy and buys paintings, Picasso's and all that.
An incredible cast.
Oh, Lily Tomlin, me, Joan Plowright, Judi Dench, Maggie Smith, and some unbelievable Italian actors. It's very funny, and it's very tender, and it's very serious, but the overtone of it is very funny and very, you know, the English women hate us, and we think they're stupid, and it's very sniping, and, you know, it's very human.
Cher has won respect for her acting over the years, but she hasn't lost her touch with a pop song. Believe, from the CD of the same name, became an international hit, though Cher had to be coaxed into recording it.
I didn't really want to do it in the beginning, but the head of my record company, I'm signed to Warner UK, and the head of my record company is so smart and he's so sneaky. I said, I don't really want to do a dance album. He said, let me just send some songs, and in the songs were these 2 songs that I fell madly in love with. He said, just start with these 2 songs, and you'll, you know, and then I just kept getting great songs, and it ended up to be a dance album.
Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough, no.
So it's fun. I mean, you're appealing to really a whole new generation, which kind of hate to say that, but in a way you are, right?
Yeah. It's weird. It's like the Sonny and Cher show. And the Cher show, it has a huge young following. It has basically the same following that we had when we were on, which was like it goes from little tiny kids to old grandmothers.
Cher in 1998, almost 20 years earlier, she was Tom Brokaw's guest on Today, plugging a TV special called Cher and Other Fantasies. She'd already been a star for a long time.
People in America are awfully familiar with your life by now. You
Yes.
seem to be on the front page of every magazine, newspaper that has ever been published at one time or another. They would find it hard to believe that you have not lived out by this time most of your fantasies. Do you really have secret fantasies?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I really do. I think that I haven't lived. I don't know. Well, it depends. I haven't lived out my fantasies as much as the newspaper and the media have lived them out for me. So a lot of that stuff that you think I've done, I've never even done.
But aren't you ever tempted to just close the door, lock it, and stay inside for about a year and say they're going to have to find me with only a telephoto lens?
I don't know. I think that's a problem that makes entertainers, I think it's wrong. I think it's a problem that entertainers have. Like Elvis Presley is a perfect example. If you don't live your life in spite of what people are going to capture of it, you know, I don't want to have to be shut in. If I have to pay that price of letting people know things that maybe I wouldn't want them to know or not doing things, I'd rather do things.
I want to talk about Cher and her future as a performer, as an entertainer. You've managed to stay atop things pretty well, but you are known essentially as a television performer in this country. A friend of mine has likened television to skywriting. It works while it's there, but it often disappears. Do you ever worry about Cher, poof, disappearing at one point as a television entertainer?
I don't worry about it so much. I mean, I know it's a possibility. I've been famous for half of my life right now, which is 16 years. And I worried about it before, and it just depends. If people want me to be famous, I will be, and if they don't, then I won't. And there's not very much I can do about it one way or another. I can do my best, and I can continue to try and do stuff that I think will be entertaining, and if people like you, that's how you're going to become and stay famous.
We were talking about this earlier, but two people that have surprised me completely on this program. One was Elton John and the other one was Cher, in terms of their personalities, who have a very flamboyant public image.
Right.
And they're both in the music business, and they like to go in wild costumes, and then come in here and are quite low-key and quite thoughtful and say, that's another part of my life, that's my public entertainment side.
That was a nice revealing chat.
Well, it was, I must say that I learned more from her than I expected to.
Tom Brokaw impressed by Cher in 1979. Her Sonny and Cher days were then long over. She was a headliner in Las Vegas, constantly in the headlines with her love life, which included a brief marriage to rock star Gregg Allman. Trying to break into movies and getting nowhere, she moved to New York to try theater. Filmmaker Robert Altman cast her in Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, Jimmy Dean. Altman's movie version of the play featured Cher as well. And suddenly she was being taken seriously as an actress.
With this role, Cher is making a bid at a serious acting career, even to the extent of going after an Oscar nomination.
I think more importantly, maybe, than campaigning for the nomination, our picture is not the product of any major studio. We've got 35 cents, you know, to promote this picture. We're playing in 11 markets, and to keep the picture going and to get people to come and see it, all of us have done a lot of promotional work. I'm the most visible one of all of us, and so it seems that I can do the best for the movie. So it's not just for the Oscar nomination, which of course I would love. You know, I can't imagine that anyone who really did the work the best they could and thinks that that's as good as it can be done by them would not love to have a nomination. I don't think that having a nomination is going to have people take me more seriously than just going and seeing my work. I mean, it's a lot more prestigious, but I don't know that it can make my work any better.
Cher was nominated for a Golden Globe that year, but not an Oscar. That would come later, with nominations for Silkwood and Moonstruck, as we'll see when Time and Again continues.
Snap out of it!
In the early 80s, when Cher was on Broadway, filmmaker Mike Nichols visited her backstage and offered her a part in his latest film. Cher accepted sight unseen. The film was Silkwood, starring Meryl Streep as an anti-nuke union activist, with Cher as her roommate, Dolly Pellicker.
Can I hear you say Dolly Pellicker the way you say it in the movie? No, you know, that was such a hard thing. We had to do that about 10 million times. Somehow, not because of me, basically, but because we couldn't get the shot down. And then when I heard it, it sounded so terrible.
Name?
Karen Silkwood.
Drew Stevens.
Dolly Pellicker.
You know, I'm really proud of what I did, but it's such a small thing. I honestly never expected people to notice this. It's so, I don't think I have 5 minutes of screen time. I don't say 40 lines.
Hey, Dolly, did you...
And also the way I looked, I didn't think people would you know, I kind of was disappointed because I thought, God, I'm going to get a chance to act with Meryl Streep and Mike Nichols, and look at the way I look, you know, and I wanted to make more of an impression. You wait 8 years to do something, and you kind of want to make more of an impression.
Is this going to cause you to reconsider yourself in some fundamental way, that now that you've figured out that people can admire you, even when you look, as you say, like a truck driver and no makeup and not glamorous, and they still think you're pretty good?
Well, you know, it gives you a sense of, I guess, the kind of security that Meryl has. It gives me a taste of that, where people just like her work and don't make so much of a value judgment about her, or need to know what she's doing inside her private life to like her. And that feels good, because usually before I've had to give away so much of myself as a person in order to have people like me, and then when I'm not doing the things that America likes, having to suffer that too, it makes it a little schizophrenic.
I was reading, and I've heard you say things like this before, that to quote, "For years I was a complete joke." Now, you've said that to me before, and I don't know who thought you were a joke. I never did. Who was it? Who are you talking about that thought you were?
Well, I don't think some people, it's like you say you never did, I don't think some people did, but if you would pick up a magazine, there are certain ways that magazines and the press treat you when they know they don't have to be very respectful. It's like, you know, the difference between someone talking about Suzanne Summers and Meryl Streep. You're going to find a big difference in the way people feel they have to talk about those two women. And also, because my lifestyle was so erratic, or because people thought my lifestyle was so erratic, it kind of gave them license to say whatever they wanted to say about me.
And the fact is, Cher had feelings, and that, were you hurt by that, or are you a tough cookie? And
I'm a pretty tough cookie.
Yeah.
Cher with me on Today in 1985. Nominated for an Oscar for her role in Silkwood, her latest film was Mask. She played Rusty Dennis in the true story of a mother of a boy horribly disfigured by a fatal disease.
On the face of it, you and Rusty Dennis have virtually nothing in common, and yet there's something there, I can't put my finger on it, that I can feel a real empathy between this famous rock star, movie star, and this biker woman with a drug problem. How do you explain that empathy?
Well, you know, I'm a valley girl. You know, I don't come from, it's really rags to riches. I come from the place of knowing this. I grew up this way. You know, I didn't grow up with bikers, but I grew up in the valley, and I grew up very poor, and I know what it's like, you know, to feel the feelings that she has. And I also think that none of us are very different. We're all basically the same, with just strange exteriors or different exteriors, so that I knew what kind of things that she went through on a kind of a gut level.
Cher had actually gotten to know the real-life Rusty Dennis during the making of Mask, and she had the confidence to trust her own instincts in the role, virtually ignoring the guidance of director Peter Bogdanovich. She had a similar experience in her next film, The Witches of Eastwick, co-starring Jack Nicholson, Susan Sarandon, and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Do you believe that women have special powers?
Do you think men believe that women have special powers?
Well, they certainly have special powers over men. I think that women, everyone has special powers, but I think women traditionally have had to rely on mystery, and that is observed as power or some sort of power trade, you know?
You're talking manipulation.
Right. Okay.
Let's call it spade a spade,
okay?
Right, the women, the witches in the movie, how can they be manipulative when they don't even know they have powers?
She was speaking about her own life.
Right.
She was
Excuse me.
She was out of character for 2 seconds.
Sue hit it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It's my turn. Yes, I think women, maybe because we carry the eggs, maybe because we're responsible for civilization, whatever, I think your intuition is more finely tuned. If we're going to generalize and be sexist.
She wants to know about the witches in the movie, Sue.
But that was a good answer.
It was.
And sometimes the answer
Sue
is
was
better
going
than
to just
the
go
question.
off and be so esoteric, my God.
Michelle, I asked you earlier off camera what if the three of you had different relationships with Jack, and you said, well, we were a unit.
I feel like, yeah, I feel
The
like
four of
all
you.
the four of us became a unit. Absolutely.
I'm hoping, of course, that Jack is watching this morning. If he is, do you want to have a special little goodbye?
Yeah.
Okay.
We love
you, Johnny.
More than 20 years after Cher made it to the top in pop music, she won critical and commercial success as an actress, never more so than in Moonstruck in 1987. Following dramatic roles in films such as Silkwood and Mask, Moonstruck was something that came harder for Cher, a romantic comedy.
I find it a lot more difficult to do something like this than to do something like Mask. Mask for me was very, very easy. Comedy is so much harder than drama. It's unbelievable.
But comedy is not something that's foreign to you.
No, it's just hard to be funny sometimes. You know, you get like great ideas, and then in take 5 you don't know where it went. You know, or comedy. Part of comedy, I think, too, is spontaneity. So you try different things, and I just think it's more difficult. It's harder.
I'm going to marry him. Do you hear me? Last night never happened, and I'm going to marry him, and you and I are going to take this to our coffins.
I can't do that.
Why not?
I'm in love with you.
Snap out of it.
Tell me about this woman you play.
Loretta Castorini. She's this lady from Brooklyn who's never been above 14th Street, and she doesn't know where the Met is, and she's about to do something that she thinks is proper because it's the time to do it. You know, she was married once, but her husband got hit by a bus. She's going to do the right thing. That's what she figures. She has bad luck, and her family is you know, everyone speaks with a big accent, and they're very Italian, and they're very close, and yet they all think she has bad luck. So she's going to now do everything by the right way. You know, she's going to make her boyfriend get down on his knees, even though they're in a restaurant, to propose. And when her mother says, you know, do you love him? She goes, no, but I like him a lot, you know? And her mother goes, good, because when you love him, they can kill you.
How is it you can know about such a woman in such a family, with such attitudes, such narrow horizons? How do you know about that woman?
Well, I knew about the family from Sonny's family. What I was nervous about was the accent. I thought, if I don't get this accent right, and everyone else in the movie speaks like that anyway, people won't believe me, and then it'll be really embarrassing, and it'll be horrible. I mean, gray hair and a bun, and speaking like, you know, this Italian woman from Brooklyn. I'd never even been to Brooklyn. I've been to Brooklyn one time.
Are Italians going to love this movie?
Yes.
How come?
Because it's so fabulous. Because it's so kind and sweet, and the best part of being Italian. And I think the best part, I mean, I didn't come from that kind of a family, kind of a big, you know, like Sonny's family, they were always like yelling, I love you to each other, you know, I mean, they really, right. And but big, you know, like big. Like if you don't know Italians, you think they're angry and they're telling you, God, you look great today, or oh, you're so cute, or, you know.
Do you think you'll ever get an Oscar?
No, and I now know that it's not important.
No, never? Why not?
I'm really happy with what I'm doing, and if I got an award or a nomination, it would make it better. And if I don't, it's okay.
A few months later, she won an Oscar for her role in Moonstruck, wearing this characteristically low-key little number for the occasion. Just days later, fortune also smiled on former partner Sonny Bono, who began a career in politics by being elected mayor of Palm Springs. When we come back, Cher remembers Sonny and the coming out party of their daughter Chastity.
People have this idea of me that I'm much more of an outrageous person than I actually am, you know, that I like do major drugs and I go around like grabbing young boys off the street and kissing them and throwing them down on the ground, you know, I mean, like, you know, like I'm some sort of a she-woman.
Does it hurt your feelings?
It does hurt my feelings, but not enough to keep me from
doing it, you know?
Welcome back to Time and Again. Here in America, we love our celebrities. Over the years, we've gotten to know a handful of them on a first-name basis. Elvis, Marilyn, Madonna, Prince, and one of the most durable, Cher. I profiled her for Dateline in 1996, the year she turned 50.
I take back those words that hurt you, and you'd stay.
I've been notorious, I've been infamous, I've been famous for being famous, and I've done some really good work. And it's all kind of thrown in there. I'm very messy. I'm a very messy icon.
She's a pop culture phenomenon, all right. An admirer once observed that Cher has more lives than a cat. Someone who wasn't made a similar observation.
It wasn't meant to be a compliment, but I absolutely took it like this. After nuclear holocaust, there will be cockroaches and Cher. And so I feel that that's, you know, there's some validity to that.
60s pop idol, 70s TV personality, 80s movie star.
Snap out of it!
Cher has been a constant in a business where fame is a very perishable commodity.
You know, fame is done with smoke and mirrors. I'm the person that when I'm hot is the new and improved Cher, and when I'm not is the old and tired Cher.
Walking in Memphis.
The latest Cher is a just-released CD, her first in 5 years. Cher is rich, and not all her millions come from movies and records. She's made a fortune in real estate, buying or building magnificent homes and then turning them over for a tidy profit. The New York Times reported recently she's done this 16 times in the last 20 years. There was this Beverly Hills mansion and another showplace in Aspen. There's also the mail-order business, home furnishings for people who have her taste, but not her money. In the classic Horatio Alger tradition, she's come a very long way. Born Sherilyn Sarkeesian, her parents split up when she was just an infant. Destitute, her mother took her to an orphanage in Philadelphia.
I didn't live with my mother until I was 3 years old. There are all kinds of things about me that no one knows, but go to make me who I am.
What do you remember? Do you have any memories?
No, I don't have any memories, but because of that, and thank God I know about that now, I would wake up, of course I chose a job where I'm in a different hotel room every night, right? But I would wake up, even at home, and wonder where I was and who I was.
The wonder of it is, of course, that today, nobody doesn't know who Cher is. Cher began her career 34 years ago, at the age of 16. Get a pencil, add it up.
It's too much.
Yes, this is what 50 looks like. It hardly seems possible. Rewind the videotape. She was just 16 when she met 27-year-old Sonny Bono, her next-door neighbor. She told him she was 18. She told her mother something else.
I lied to my mother when I was 16 and told her I was living with a stewardess and threw all of Sonny's clothes out the window and lost almost all of his clothes after a month of living with him, because every time my mother came over, I threw everything out the window. And he was going, "Where are my damn clothes? What's happening?"
Still a teenager when international stardom struck, Cher was ready.
It was the thing that I dreamed about when I was perfecting my autograph when I was 12, you know. I knew I was going to need it someday. And so it just seemed like, okay, well, this is how it comes in.
Sonny and Cher rode the shifting currents of pop culture for a dozen years, changing clothes with the times. When the beat slowed down, they retooled their act and traded hippie chic for svelte and sophisticated.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sonny and Cher.
In the early 70s, a summer replacement variety hour vaulted them into prime time for 3 years.
I'm blessed with a nice wife, and also I'm blessed with a wonderful singing voice.
Well, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away.
The act was playing well everywhere but at home. The marriage dissolved in 1975, and Sonny and Cher went their separate ways. Cher to Las Vegas, where she could earn $300,000 a week. Her signature style became her signature style. Outrageous and funky, long before Madonna jumped on the bandwagon.
I'm different, but I'm different to such a degree sometimes that it makes people uncomfortable, including myself. Oh, do go on about that. No, because I could do it a lot safer. I could do it a lot more planned. But it's just, it's not me, you know? I mean, careful is, I don't know what, I mean, careful to me is like the least, that's like way down on my list of things to be.
Cher's partnership with Sonny Bono lasted more than 14 years and yielded hit songs, a hit TV show, and a daughter, Chastity. When we come back, Chastity grows up and has a little surprise for Mom. Where your mother walked in on you and a girlfriend.
Right.
Chastity is now 15?
Mm-hmm.
And what does she want to be when she grows up?
Well, I think she wants to be an actress right now, and she's very, you know, she's pretty dedicated. And I think it's great. I think that Chas has got a lot more spirit and strength and self-confidence than I had. I don't know that I gave that to her. I just think she has it.
Where's she going to go?
I think she's going to be a lot smarter than I am. And that would be to not get married and have a career and get married later.
Cher with me on Today in 1984. Chastity was putting off marriage, all right, but not for the reasons Cher might then have imagined. America had gotten to know Chastity Bono when she was just a child, appearing with Mom and Dad on the Sonny and Cher show. Years later, Cher and Chastity were my guests on Today.
Are you at all like your mother, do you think?
Yeah, I guess so.
In what ways?
Well, we're both kind of stubborn and very, I don't know, what's a good word, Mom?
We have kind of stern exteriors.
Yeah.
Well put. You said, I don't know if you were kidding or not this morning, you were joking about having, this morning you had to dress your daughter?
Yes.
Are you making that up?
No, the clothes that you see are all mine. She came in and something, I said, Chester, you can't wear that. She said, well, Mom, what am I going to wear?
What are you doing telling people what they can wear or can't wear on TV?
Well, because it just didn't fit right, you know, and I just thought that she should look nice if people were going to see her. And then she came in and said, Mom, would you please do my hair? So I said, all right, since mine just came off a wig block, I just popped mine on and thought, all right, here, sit down. So she's sitting and I'm scrunching her hair up and picking her clothes out, and we're dressing in the elevator.
As it turned out, Cher would have to get used to more than her daughter's taste in clothes and hairstyles. Here's Chastity 11 years later.
Ms. Bono, you are an out lesbian.
Yes.
How do your parents feel about your political activism?
Well, I think that my parents feel okay about it. I don't really talk to my father about it that much. I mean, we kind of are on somewhat opposite sides of the fence, but I think that we, you know, can respect each other's differences. As far as my mother is concerned, I think we see things pretty much the same way. So, you know, she knows pretty much every move I make and is very supportive.
It took you some time to come to terms with it. Have you completely accepted her, her lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, it took me 3 days, you know, but for me, it was a real epiphany, because I thought that I would have a different reaction. I would think that Cher would have a different reaction to that, but I didn't. I really had to come to terms with what I really believe, you know, because you think you believe stuff, but you don't know you believe it until you're faced with it. It made us so much closer, so, I mean, I'm really happy for it, and I couldn't be prouder of her.
There had been an incident where your mother walked in on you and a girlfriend.
Right. I was with this girl that was really the first girl that I'd fallen in love with, and we had gone out dancing, came back to my house. She was going to spend the night. You know, I was making out with this girl, and my mom walked in the door, and instead of just stopping and, you know, acting like nothing was going on, we both kind of jumped up like idiots.
I kind of looked at him, and the way Chas acted, I knew I was an outsider into something that was being hidden.
And you were mad about this?
I sure was.
Why didn't you go to her and say, this is big, I think you need your mom here?
I think because I kept hoping that it was just a phase, or all of the stupid things you say. She'll grow out of it, she's young.
She'll meet the right guy.
Yeah.
Chastity says many, maybe most, parents of gay children dread the truth. Cher finally found out during Chastity's freshman year in college. She heard it from Sonny.
I mean, I went ballistic for a week. You have no idea. I made Mommy Dearest, I made her look like, you know, someone sweet. I was out of my mind. I just went around saying, am I the only person in the universe who does not know this, that she hasn't told this?
And Cher admits she didn't think it reflected particularly well on her parenting.
It meant I was a bad mother, that I had done something wrong, and that's what happened because of it.
Another part was a mother's fear that her daughter was going to be hurt.
I just was afraid that with Sonny and I for her parents, and going into this lifestyle that I just didn't see as safe, I was just afraid that it was just going to be too rough for her, because at that time I thought she was so delicate.
Now she travels the country lecturing.
Every mother has a unique journey in discovery of her child's sexual orientation.
And now her mother is a gay activist too.
I feel like the gay poster girl. Chastity, are you sufficiently proud of me now?
What is the message? You can't give up who you are. You have to leave the people behind that can't accept you, or lie to them, which is worse.
When we come back, Cher talks about Chastity's dad, the late Sonny Bono, when Time and Again continues.
When Sonny and I got together, he was 28 and I was 16.
So he was very wise and older and...
Well, he was older.
Divorcing Sonny must have been very hard. Then for professional reasons, it was complicated.
It took me a really long time to try and sort what was going on in my mind out. I was vacillating between thinking, well, I have everything I could possibly want. Maybe I'm the kind of person that will never be happy. Or, so what if it's not romantic? You know, we've been married for 10 years, well, 11 years when I left him, but, you know, maybe you can't have that anymore. I didn't know what to base my feelings on, really. And one night I just said, you know, well, I can't say what I thought, but I just thought, this is ridiculous. You know, I weighed about 102 pounds, and I couldn't sleep, and we were in Las Vegas, which I really, at the time, could not even bear to go to. And I thought, we have like a number 5 television show, and I hate my life. So I just left. I just said, son, this is it, I'm leaving, goodbye.
What happened?
Well, I came back, and then a couple of days later, and I said I was sorry, and tried to kind of make amends in a strange way, you know? And I just, it lasted for about 45 minutes, and I woke up and I said, you know, I can't do this anymore, I really can't. Sonny was miserable. And I tried to be concerned, but I wasn't. You know, I tried to be as nice as I could, but I just didn't care. I was so thrilled not to be with him that my life was, I don't know, it was too good, and obviously that you can't keep living like that, but it was just like, it was amazing. I can't believe I'm actually talking about this. You really suckered me into this. I mean, I've never really talked to anybody about it in this kind of depth before.
Sonny and Cher may have been a pop commodity, but they were also husband and wife, and partners in the high-visibility, high-pressure world of show business. They had a complicated relationship, one that extended far beyond their marriage. Here's Cher in 1996.
You had some very kind words to say about Sonny recently, and he doesn't seem to echo your sentiments.
Oh, you know what? I say something mean about him, and he'll say something nice about me, and then I'll say something nice about him, and he'll say something mean about me. I mean, you know, in the strange vapors that are Sonny and Cher, you know, he and I have this kind of thing together, you know? It's like, I don't care what he says about me, truthfully, because I know that when push comes to shove, probably the last thought he's ever going to have in his life is, oh, I had to tell Cher something, you know? That's just, we're connected in a very strange way.
I don't look back at anything, and I'm not bitter about anything.
Do you ever talk to Cher?
We talk. We don't have much to talk about. Actually, Cher talks to my wife more than she talks to me. They get along better.
They have something in common.
That's right, they do.
California Congressman Sonny Bono with NBC's Tim Russert in 1997. Just over 8 months later, Sonny was dead, the victim of a skiing accident.
This morning, people are mourning the death of Sonny Bono. Today, his former wife, Cher, cut short a trip to London to return to the United States. The body of her 62-year-old ex-husband was found during the night on a ski slope at South Lake Tahoe.
Cher was devastated by the loss of Sonny Bono, though they'd had a difficult relationship over the years. He had been her mentor, discovering her when she was just 16 and making her a star. At Sonny's funeral, Cher gave an emotional, unforgettable eulogy.
Some people thought that Son wasn't very bright, but he was smart enough to take an introverted 16-year-old girl and a scrappy little Italian guy with a bad voice and turn them into the most successful and beloved couple of this generation. And some people thought that Son wasn't to be taken seriously because he allowed himself to be the butt of the jokes on the Sonny and Cher show. What people don't realize is that he created Sonny and Cher, and he knew what was right for us, you know? He just always knew the right thing, and he wanted to make people laugh so much that he had the confidence to be the butt of the joke because he created the joke. When I was young, there was this section in the Reader's Digest, and it was called The Most Unforgettable Character I've Ever Met. And for me, that person is Sonny Bono. And no matter how long I live or who I meet in my life, that person will always be Son for me.
I read the transcript of your eulogy. I had to deliver the eulogy at my dad's funeral, and I know it's not an easy assignment. Were you nervous about it?
I don't really know what I was. I was, in one respect, yes, I was nervous, which seemed kind of shallow in one respect, but it wasn't really. It was that I thought, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get up there and say stuff, and how am I not going to be emotional? How am I going to? I was frightened. I guess I wasn't composed enough to be nervous. I was terrified.
You said in the eulogy people didn't think he was smart, but he was smart enough to take an introverted 16-year-old girl and a scrappy Italian guy with a bad voice and turn them into the most successful and beloved couple of this generation.
Yep.
Over the years after the breakup, you both were pretty good at throwing barbs back and forth. Some of the things were not all that nice. Do you regret those words after something like this happens?
Nah. No, because we had this strange relationship. It's like, at one time, he was really angry with me at the divorce, and he tried to prove that I was an unfit mother. Well, that just didn't go anyplace, you know? And when we were coming out afterwards, we walked down the steps, and he grabbed me and kissed me and bent me back, and somehow we didn't ever stay angry with each other for very long. We had said to each other, if you ever need me for anything, if you really need me, call me. You know, and we'd both talk to each other a million times after we'd said something, and somebody would say, you know, that was really awful. That was really snide, you know. That was really crappy. So it wasn't a big deal. Don't rub my nose.
Why? You always liked me to rub your nose. When we'd come home at night and get in bed alone, you used to say, Sonny, I'd say, what? Rub my nose.
Is there something left unsaid between you and Sonny that you really wish you could have said?
No, because there was nothing that I could have said to Sonny that would make him know anything more about my feelings for him or our relationship.
You said in the past that you were at one stage of your life desperate to run away from the Sonny and Cher days.
Yes.
His death has brought those days back to the public consciousness, and of course now you're hosting a special on CBS
Yes.
about many of those days. Any reluctance on your part to do the special?
No, it was my idea. No, because I mean, I've made peace with that. It was like, I used to work in Las Vegas all the time, and I hated it because I couldn't really work anywhere else. And the moment I started making movies, I couldn't wait to get back to Las Vegas. You know, I wanted to do something, and I felt that it was a hindrance to something because people weren't taking me seriously because I was doing those silly, you know, The Vamp and, you know, Laverne. But people are very unwilling to let you go someplace that they are not sure you belong.
It's been almost a year now that Sonny was killed in that skiing accident. And I know you still think of him quite often. You still miss him?
I feel that I'm really kind of made a peace with it, and every once in a while, though, the strangest things will come up for me about him, but for the most part, I think that all the stuff is really good memories and good feelings of closeness. I just have a good feeling of closeness with him.
Cher has made a career out of going places other people weren't sure she belonged, and of exceeding their expectations. Sonny Bono may have paved her way all those years ago, but Cher's continued success as a recording star, a clothes horse, an actress, a survivor, has been a creation all her own. That's Time and Again for now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jane Pauley, and we're history.
I always wanted to do all the things that I'm doing. When I was little, that's all I thought about. I didn't think about school. I didn't think about anything else. I thought about performing. I was going to sing and dance and act, and that's what I always planned to do.